It's day 6 of Bookmas, and today I'm going to be talking to you about books that made me cry this year. Hey everyone, my name's Amanda and I'm the Fun Size Reader. And as most of you know, I am not a big book crier. I'm a big book emotioner. I have big emotions when it comes to books, and that's what I love about them. But I don't like crying in books. I tried to choose books that will not make me cry, but this stack definitely got past me. For most of these, I think I was just so invested in the characters that I didn't have a choice. Like, I could not stop myself from crying. Let's start with the one that I have talked to you guys about most recently. Zodiac Academy 7. I cried, I sobbed, I was distraught. I don't even know how to describe how I felt at the end of this book. It was emotional damage. I knew it was coming. I could not stop myself from doing it. If you go and watch my review for this book, like, I cry in the review, okay? That's how bad I was crying in this book. And I said it in my review, but like literally my husband turned to me and he asked me, "Is your book wrecking you?" And I was just sobbing. I was like, ah. So yeah, that one was really rough. And the whole like beginning of the book was fine. It was not until the very end. And there was one thing that happened that just like ripped my heart out. And then I was like, oh no, here it comes. And then the boulder just kept freaking rolling. And then more and more things kept happening. And it was rough. It was rough. So this was not a book that was like the subject matter and the like beautiful story moved me to tears. No, this was pure and utter devastation that was pushed upon characters that I have loved for 7 books. This was that kind of cry. Like the, I can't believe you're doing this to me, Caroline and Suzanne, that kind of cry. I can only imagine if I was watching this on a screen, how much more crying there would be. I look forward to that happening one day. Another book that I lost my shit was Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. This was her release this year. I think it came out earlier, like March, April, something like that. I made the mistake of reading a book that was about a woman who lost her boyfriend and found out she was pregnant and had a child, but then had to give up that child because she was in jail, and then just wanted to see that child again on my first Mother's Day. Mistakes were made, you guys. Mistakes were made. I sobbed. I lost it. I had to put the book down and walk away just so I didn't like lose myself into this book. It was a bad decision, like really bad decision on my part. Amazing book. Amazing book. This one was more of that moving story, that like beautiful love story, that Colleen Hoover type book that just has so many moving pieces and so many dramatic things that happen that you just get so worked up. But if it's your first Mother's Day and you're a new mom, do not read this book in May. Do not do it. I promise it will not turn out well for you. This is also one that I did say in my review that I do think that people can enjoy it at different stages in their lives, but I think that people will appreciate it differently at different stages. Like, I read it on my first Mother's Day. My sister read it. She is not a mother. She was very emotional about the book as well, but she found different pieces of it emotional than I did. So I do think it is a book that can hit anyone at any life stage, because there's elements that someone can get out of it just because of like the beauty of the story. The next one that made me cry was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This one is hard for me to talk about why it made me cry. But I feel like there are relatable characters and relatable situations in this book that people can resonate with. And I feel like Abby does such an absolutely amazing job at giving people who may have had those experiences a voice. And I think that is what brought me to tears. Just said it so well. Just so well. I couldn't stop the tears from falling. The book itself did not have a sad subject matter like some of her other books have. Her other books have made me cry too. You guys, like, Abby is a sleeper. She will drop that devastating plot line at you and you don't even know it's freaking coming. Her books can make you cry. And this one was different than that. This one didn't have that devastating plot line, but it had a lot of character growth. It had a lot of relatable situations. And I think that is what brought me to tears. This next book was kind of like a weird crying situation. Okay, it was weird. I didn't cry throughout the entire book. But when it was over, I just laid on my couch and cried. Like literally just laid on my couch at 6 a.m. because I stayed up all night to read it. I read the whole thing and then I just laid there and just like had tears streaming down my face. And that was Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. Cried. Just sobbed. I don't exactly know why. I obviously loved the story. I read it really fast. I think I was also really sad it was over. Like I had read it too fast. I didn't enjoy it for a longer period of time. But I cried. It was over. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was really well done. And I just was like, wow, I think it's crazy that there are people that can write books like this, that you will just be so invested in the story and invested in the characters and feel so much. Because this was one of those books that like gave me in the chest feelings. Like the love story that was done like back and forth, past and present, split timelines. I normally am not a super duper fan of that, but this one was so well done. It brought me to tears. I really, really loved it. I know this book had a huge hype. There were a lot of people that said that it wasn't worth the hype. I definitely think that this book was worth the hype. It was worth the hype for me. I sat there and just like couldn't get out of the book hole that I was in when I finished it. Now it is about summer though, and it's the middle of winter. So, well, at least for me here, I don't know about you guys. It's definitely a summer book. It's a lake house vibe, summer romance. Every Summer After. If you want to sob. Other people I don't think cried about this book. It was just me. But if you want to cry, check it out. Now there is one more book that did make me cry. And I didn't sob, but I cried hard. This was the second time that I read this book, so it's not like I didn't know what was coming. I knew it was coming, and it hit me just as hard as it did the first time. And that was House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I can't say what made me cry because I don't want to spoil this beautiful book for people. I can't spoil it for people. I will link my review for this book so you can watch it. It's like a review recap. I did it earlier this year. I specifically talk about it there. So if you have read it and it doesn't need to be spoiled for you, then you can see what made me cry. I am sure it probably made some of you cry too. But for those of you who have not read this book, there's an order. Okay, there's an order. I will also link that video for you so you can pay attention to the specific order of reading for all of her series, because you cannot just jump into this one. But yes, she made me cry. She made me cry. And now I'm going to do some honorable mentions, because these honorable mentions didn't make me cry, but I did get a little teary and I did get a little emotional, but I didn't cry. So let's just piggyback off the last book and go straight into House of Sky and Breath. I did not cry, but I did get very emotional and I did get teary when things happened at the end. Again, I'm not going to spoil this book for people, so go watch my review. Go watch my review on it if you have already read and you want to know what specific parts, but it has to do with my favorite male mate of Sarah J. Maas's books and what I think happened to him at the end. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. Another book that got me super, super emotional was A Light in the Flame. I talked to you guys about this one recently. It is the second book in the Flesh and Fire series, and it's got my favorite of her characters that I've read so far, Daddy Niktos. This book just made me really, really emotional. Like finger tingling, chest hurting, emotional when I was reading it. There were some very specific scenes that I think were written that really hit the reader. I have talked to a couple people about this who have also read those same scenes, and we literally had to take breaks. We had to stop reading, and one of them, there's only 2 chapters left in the entire book, and we had to put it down and walk away. Like, it was that emotional for me. And my friend did it too. Same exact point. And I messaged her and I was like, I get it. I understand now. I get it. Teary eyes, like physiological response in my body to the emotions that I was feeling, but no dropped tears, but my whole body was feeling this book. I just felt everything that Sarah was feeling. So good. Another one that gets honorable mention, I actually read very early in this year, but it is one that was very emotional, and that is The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. This book I was not expecting. I have read her other books, and I thought it was going to be less deep than it was. It was very deep. There were a lot of scenes that were very involved in the loss of a parent. At first, I was like, whoa, like this was not what I was expecting. And then I read the author's note in the back, and she said that she wrote this because of her recent experience, and it was like very cathartic for her to write this book. It kind of just gave it a whole different meaning and different feel, knowing that this was what she needed to write. While I didn't cry specifically, it was still very emotional and hit me really, really hard. So if you're looking for that type of book, definitely check this one out. That's what made me cry this year. Like I said in the beginning, I love getting really emotional about books, and I love getting so connected to books that they make me that emotional. I like having that like visceral response to things that happen. So emotions with reading are fantastic for me. Crying though, I really hate doing, because like, okay, story time. Okay, this is just going to be a little add-on at the end here. Story time. I love the Outlander series, and I've talked about this series before, but I haven't done specific reviews on them. I love this series so much, but sometimes they make me cry too much, to the point where I like cannot handle myself. I remember sitting and reading the second book, like finishing the second book, and then reading the beginning of the third one, I think. And I was crying more than I have ever cried in a book at like 3:00 in the morning by myself in my room, like with the light of a flashlight reading these books. And I had the little mass market paperback copies that I was reading. So the words were like, just sobbing uncontrollably. And you're going to laugh at me at this if any of you are Outlander fans. I cannot watch season 2 of the show. I have watched season 1 probably 3 or 4 times. I get to season 2, and the first episode, if you know Outlander, you know what happens. The first episode, my whole body starts shutting down and it hurts so badly. And I start like hyperventilating and crying, and I can't watch it. I cannot watch it. I am a big reader for emotional books, but I try to avoid books that will make me cry like that again, because it sucks sometimes. It sucks really, really badly. We will see if I have a list of books that make me cry next year. Fingers crossed that it's a no, but I also have not yet read Zodiac 8 because it hasn't come out yet. So that might get added to this list. I will let you know in that review when I actually finish the book when it comes out. That might add on to this. If it does, I'll probably have to add it on to next year's video. Okay, now I want to know, did any of the ones that I talked about today make you cry? What was the book that made you cry this year, or multiple books? I will be sure to probably avoid those ones. Thanks for coming to Bookmas Day 6. So excited to have you today. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. And don't forget, you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at The Fun Size Reader. See you guys next time.